الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الهداة المهديين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For the last few nights we spoke about the factors that enable us to achieve taqwa. Taqwa, protection from haram, immunity from the dunya, the temptations of this materialistic life. And we mentioned a few so far. We spoke about fasting and how fasting enables us to achieve taqwa. And then we spoke about basira, when we see the true nature of this world, of this life. And finally, we spoke about the fear of Allah Azza wa Jal. These factors collectively enable the human being to refrain from haram, refrain from sin, and achieve taqwa. The final factor that I will speak about tonight, insha'Allah, that enables us to achieve taqwa and stay away from haram is the love of Allah Azza wa Jal. Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says in one hadith that there are three types of worshippers that worship God. He says the first group are those that worship God because they are afraid of His punishment. That's why they worship Him. The Imam says, Tilka ibadatul abid. This is the worship of slaves. Back then when there used to be slaves, why would a slave obey his master? He did not love his master, nor was he paid for his work. The only reason a slave would work for his master and not disobey him was because he was afraid of the stick. He was afraid of punishment. If he would not obey his master, he would be punished by his master. So the Imam says there are some people that worship Allah just because of Nar Jahannam. They're afraid of it. The Imam says, Tilka ibadatul abid. This isn't a very valuable, even though it's not wrong, but this isn't a very valuable motivation, a motive for worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal, just because you are being, you may be punished if you disobey. So this is the first group. The second group, the Imam says, are the ones that worship Allah because they yearn for His prize. They yearn for Al-Jannah, paradise. That's why they worship Allah. The Imam says, Tilka ibadatul ujara. He says, this is the worship of an employee. Imagine you have a business and you hire an employee. Or if I'm an employee now, why do I follow the orders of my boss? Why do I work? Why don't I disobey him? Because I want to earn the money that he's going to give me, right? I want the reward. This is why I do my job anytime I'm hired. He says some people, this is how they are with Allah. They worship Allah just because they want Jannah, nothing else. The Imam says this is like you're an employee. I give you salah, Ya Allah, you give me paradise. Where's the spirituality? So it's likewise not too valuable in the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jal because you're like an employee. And then the Imam says there is a third group of individuals that worship God, and their motive behind why they worship God is because they love Allah Azza wa Jal. They love Allah. Their love for God is what drives them to worship Allah Azza wa Jal. The Imam says, Tilka ibadatul ahrar. He says this is the true worship, the valuable worship, the worship of free individuals. They don't worship Allah because they are afraid of Jahannam, even though they are afraid, but that's not why. And they don't worship Allah because of paradise, even though they do want paradise. We're not saying they don't want paradise, but that's not why they worship Him. Even if there was no paradise and there was no Jahannam, no fires of hell, they would still worship Allah. Why? Because their love of Allah is what brings them to Allah and what makes them worship Allah Azza wa Jal. And this is what love does, brothers and sisters. It's one of the most powerful emotions of the human being. When someone falls in love with something or with someone, not only do they not want compensation, but sometimes they're willing to sacrifice everything because of that love. You've seen sometimes some young people, they fall in love, right? And I've noticed that sometimes the families, one of the families is against the marriage. You find the guy is willing to lose his family members. Sometimes he's willing to lose his job. He's willing to lose his friends, everything because he wants to marry that girl. Or she wants to marry him and she's willing to lose everything. This is what love does to us. It will make you sacrifice everything. That's how strong it is, love. When you love a human being, when you love Allah Azza wa Jal, you will also sacrifice everything for Him. You won't care if you lose this, if you lose that. It doesn't matter, because your love of Allah is stronger than any other personal desires or personal benefits that you may have interest in this life. And this was how Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam were. Their worship for Allah was unconditional. They didn't care what happened, what they gained, what they lost. In fact, they considered if you have Allah with you, that's all you need. Imam al-Hussein mentions this in Dua Arafah. He says, Ilahi ma alladhi faqada man wajadak. وَمَاذَا وَجَدَ مَنْ فَقَدَكَ. He says, the one that has you, Ya Allah, he has lost nothing. And the one that has lost you, he has nothing. So as long as Allah is with you, you don't want anything else. You don't care about any of the materialistic desires of the dunya, because you have Allah Azza wa Jal. In fact, Al-Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam tells us in Dua Abu Hamza Thamali, even if Allah were to take me and punish me in the fires of hell, I would still worship Allah. If Allah comes down right now, He sends Jibreel to you, tells you, look, whatever you do, I'm going to punish you in hell. Are you going to pray tomorrow? 99.9, if not 100% of us will. No, why are we going to pray anymore, right? Because khalas, I'm going to be fired in Jahannam. I'm going to be burned in Jahannam. The Imam says, even if Allah tells me I will burn you in Jahannam, I will still pray to Him. Allahu Akbar. You see his unconditional love? Because he's not praying because he doesn't want to go to Jahannam. He's not praying because he wants to go to heaven. He is praying because he loves God. That love of God cannot be stripped away from him. He says in Dua Abi Hamza Thamali, وَلَئِنْ أَدْخَلْتَنِيَ النَّارِ لَأُخْبِرَنَّ أَهْلَ النَّارِ بِحُبِّي لَكَ. He says, if you were to take me, Ali ibn al-Hussein, and put me in the fires of hell, I would not complain, Ya Allah. I would not whine. I would not object. Why, Ya Allah? I was such a good person. I did this, I did that. I never did haram. He says, I would only do one thing, the Imam says. He says, I would inform the inmates of Jahannam of my love to you. So even if you put me in Nar Jahannam, I will still love you, Ya Allah. Basically, he's telling Allah, there's nothing that you can do to make me hate you. Sometimes some of us, we have the smallest problems in our lives and we start turning away from Allah Azza wa Jal. For example, there's a sickness, I lose a family member, I have certain financial problems. I begin to turn my back on Allah Azza wa Jal. You know, right now the leading cause of atheism in the world is evil, suffering. People suffer. That's it. They want to disbelieve in Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah takes away some of the bounties that He has given to them and they reject Allah. Look at, there's these type of people, and then you have Imam Zainul Abidin, where he says, if you put me in the fires of hell, which is the greatest punishment of Allah, I will still love you. I will still worship you, Ya Allah. And Al-Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says the same thing. He shows his love to Allah in Dua Kumail. He says, Ilahi, صبرت على عذابك. If you were to take me and also punish me in the fires of hell, صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك. If you were to punish me in the fires of hell, the Imam said, I would bear the pain of the fire itself, but what I could not bear is the pain of you rejecting me, of being separated from you. That will kill me. The fires of hell, no, I can bear it, but I cannot bear being separated from you, Ya Allah. How can I be separated from you, far from you, knowing that you are upset with me, knowing that you do not love me? That in itself will kill me, Ya Allah, not the fires of hell. This is the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And then he says, أقسم عليك صادقا لأن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآملين ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين وَلَأُنَادِيَنَّكَ أَيْنَ كُنْتَ يَا وَلِيَّ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. He says, likewise, if you were to put me in the fires of hell, I would scream, but not because of the pain of the fire. I would scream because I miss you, Ya Allah. I would yell, Ya Allah, where are you? Why have you forsaken me? Why have you neglected me? Please embrace me, Ya Allah. This is the love and devotion of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam to Allah. It was pure love. Their relationship with Allah was a relationship of pure love. And when you have that type of relationship with Allah, you will not care about anything in the world. Anything. Let the entire world collapse. Let the stock market go through the roof. Doesn't matter. because your focus is on Allah. You have something that is greater than all of that. You're not going to care about any of that. There's a story, a famous story, that happened during maybe the 18th century, 19th century in Iran. There was a princess that lived in the city of Isfahan. Her name was Goharshad. It's a famous story. And now there's a masjid in the haram of Imam al-Rida named after her, Masjid of Goharshad. She was a princess. So one day when she was walking somewhere publicly, there was a young man that saw her. And as soon as he saw her, he fell in love with her. He saw she was a beautiful woman. He fell in love with her. So he came back, he was sick. He didn't want to eat, he didn't want to do anything. His mother asked him, what happened? He told her, I saw the princess today and I fell in love with her. I want to marry her. What do I do? She told him, my dear son, this is the princess. We are nobody. We're just normal people. So please take her off your mind. This is something impossible. But he could not sleep at night. He could not eat. He was like a sick individual. His mother knew someone that worked in the palace of the princess. So either she, initially she came up with this idea, or the son told her, please, my dear mother, tell your friend who works in the palace to ask her if she would be interested to at least give me a try. We could get to know each other and maybe marry her. He was being illogical. When you fall in love sometimes, you become illogical. So the mother said, okay. She asked her friend who works in the palace. She told her, my son, he wants, to send a message to the princess. If you saw her one day, please let her know. So she sees her one day and she tells her, there's this guy, random guy, who wants to marry you. So obviously it should be a no. But they say that Goharshad was wise and she was righteous. She was a mu'minah. So she didn't say no right away. She told her, yes, I accept under one condition. What's the condition that he can come and meet me and we get to know each other? Tell him that he has to pray Salat al-Layl for 40 nights in a row. 40 nights in a row. Salat al-Layl, most of us, we probably never prayed it in our lives, maybe a couple of times, right? The 11 rak'ahs we pray at night, midnight. He has to pray them 40 nights and then I'll give him a chance. So she told the mother. The mother was shocked that there is a chance. There's something he can do to actually win her. So she tells the son, he was so sick, he starts jumping. He can run 10 miles now. He's so happy at this news. So the next night, he's the first person at the masjid. He has to pray at the masjid, so there's a witness that can report it. He's the first person at the masjid. He has done the most beautiful wudu and the most beautiful salah. You see, when you love a human being, how you pray for them? But with Allah, our salah is so fast, no khushu', no khudu'. Our wudu is sometimes batil. Our salah, we don't know the ahkam, we're yawning, we're scratching our head the whole time, right? This is for Allah. But as soon as it becomes for a human being that we love them, the most beautiful salah. So he prays Salat al-Layl, the first night, the second night, the 10th night, until he finishes the course 40 nights. After the 40 nights, he was supposed to come and report to the palace and get a chance. He never came. He never showed up. A couple of days passed by. Goharshad, she realizes that this man, he got the certificate. So now he should come and he should have a meeting with Goharshad. He doesn't come. So she sends after that same worker, who is the friend of the mother, what happened? She goes and asks the mother. The mother asks the son, why didn't you go? Didn't you want a chance to? You said you were in love with her? Look at what the son replies. He tells her, tell that worker to tell Goharshad that I am no longer in love with her. Now I am in love with her God, with Allah Azza wa Jal. After 40 nights of Salat al-Layl, I discovered my true love. It was Allah, because he had never prayed Salat al-Layl. Now he doesn't want to go. Who's Goharshad? Now my new love that I want to focus on is Allah. Where was I? All these years I was missing out on the beauty of Salat al-Layl. The pleasure of doing munajat with Allah midnight, brothers and sisters. The pleasure of Salat al-Layl when you're all alone praying to Allah is beyond the entire pleasures of all materialistic things. There is nothing in the world that can match the pleasure of Salat al-Layl, namaz al-shab, of munajat with Allah Azza wa Jal, when you sit with Allah in the middle of the night and you read one of the 15 munajat of Imam Zainul Abidin, or one of the munajat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Mawlaya ya Mawlaya, Anta al-Rabbu wa ana al-Marbub, wa hal yarhamu al-Marbub illa Rabb. When you read that with khushu', with khudu', wallahi, you forget about the entire world. So when the mu'min, when the believer has that relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal, he forgets about everything and he doesn't want anything else. And this is how Ahlul Bayt were with Salah. Why did they love Salah so much? While Salah is a burden for me and you. Salah for us is a burden. I have to pray Salatul Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib. It's a burden. When the Quran says, وَأَنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِ. It's like a mountain. It only takes what? 17 rak'ahs. How many minutes? It takes us 17 minutes. Each rak'ah 1 minute, right? But it's like 17 hours to some of us. We'll sit and watch a 3-hour movie and the time passes by so fast. But those 17 minutes of Salah, they take 2 hours for some of us. That's how it feels like. Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, Salah was the most beautiful thing for them. They used to look forward to Salah. Listen to this hadith from the Prophet. The Prophet says to Abu Dharr, he tells him, لَقَدْ جَعَلَ اللَّهِ قُرَّةَ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. Allah made the joy of my eyes, the most joyous thing for me is Salah. This is what I look forward to so much. For some of us, what's the most joyous thing? For some of us, it could be watching the Sunday night game. For others, playing PlayStation. For others, being on social media. For others, going on vacation. Imagine they tell you go on a vacation to Hawaii in a 5-star resort. This is the most joyous thing for us, right? The Prophet said, the most joyous thing for me is Salah. And then he says that Allah habbabaha ilayya, that I love it so much in the same way that a hungry individual loves his food. You know, he's so excited for his food. You know, when you sit at the iftar table in Ramadan, how hungry are you? How excited are you to eat that laham mashwi, to eat that rice, that tandoori, that I don't know what, right? How excited are you after not eating for so many hours? He says, this is how I look forward to Salah. Salah for us is a burden, but the Prophet, he says, I yearn for it just like a hungry, a thirsty person who's starving yearns for his food. And you know, there is even a hadith from either the Prophet or one of the Imams where he says, لِلصَّائِمِ فَرْحَتَانِ فَرْحَةٌ عِنْدَ لِقَاءِ رَبِّهِ وَفَرْحَةٌ عِنْدَ إِفْطَارِهِ. He says that Allah rewards the person that fasts twice. The first is when he eats. This is the reward. How happy you are, right? You're eating your food. And number 2 is the thawab of Allah Azza wa Jal, the reward of Allah Azza wa Jal. So the Prophet, this was how Salah was with him. Not fasting. Salah, it was the most joyous thing for him in his life. And then the Prophet says, but indeed I love Salah even more than you. The starving person loves his food. Why? Because after you finish your meal, you don't want that food anymore, right? After you are full from your iftar meal, do you still want to eat? No. That rice and chicken and kebab that looks so delicious, it's not that interesting anymore, right? Because you are so stuffed that you could barely breathe, right? That's how we eat in Ramadan. So you're not interested. You don't want that food anymore. The Prophet says, when I pray, I am never satisfied. He says, I never get full of Salah. I never get, satisfied. The more I pray, the more I want to pray. So I love Salah more than you love your own food. This was how Rasulullah was. He did not see it as a burden. And likewise, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, there's a hadith that on the 9th of Muharram, he told his brother Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas to go to the enemies and to ask them to give them one more night. Let's not start the battle, Let's just give us one more night and then we will start the battle. And then the Imam gave the reason. Because I want to spend time with my family? No, that's not what the Imam said. Because I want to live longer? No. The Imam said, because I want to use this night to pray to Allah Azza wa Jal. Let them give us one more night because I want to use this night in ibadah, in salah, in dua, in Quran, munajat. And then he said, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمْ أَنِّي أُحِبُّ الصَّلَاةَ. Because Allah witnesses and knows that I love salah. So he wanted to delay the battle so that he can pray a few rak'ahs. Allahu Akbar. This is how Imam Hussein alayhi salam thinks. And unfortunately, some of us, maybe a couple of days will come by and we don't pray. This was how Rasulullah was and Imam Hussein was. They did not see salah as burden. Why? Because they loved Allah. You and I don't love Allah. That's the honest truth, brothers and sisters. When you love someone, you will love serving that person, right? You love your father, you love serving him. You love your mother, you love serving her. You love your spouse, you love serving your spouse. Except Allah. We don't love serving him. We do it as like a chore. We do it like it's just an obligation, a ritual, just to get over with it. Because deep down in our heart, we do not love Allah. Why don't we love Allah? Because we love the dunya. مَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِرَجُلٍ مِّن قَلْبَيْنِ فِي جَوْفِهِ, the Quran says. That Allah has not given you two hearts, meaning you cannot love two things at once, either the dunya or Allah. We have chosen to love the dunya. When you choose to love the dunya, you can't love Allah anymore. That's it. Your heart cannot encompass both Allah and the dunya. Choose one or the other. We choose the dunya, we don't love Allah. It's just a ritual. Ya Allah, let me pray because it's wajib. Let me pray just because, I don't want to be penalized by Allah Azza wa Jal. I don't want to be punished by Him. This is why we pray and worship Allah Azza wa Jal. But when you truly love Allah and you start worshiping Him because you love Him, this is when you forget about everything and you don't care about the entire world. And it's this love, brothers and sisters, that will give you immunity from haram. Remember taqwa? When you love Allah Azza wa Jal, this is what will protect you from disobeying Him. When you love someone, that love is what will guarantee you're not going to hurt that person. You're not going to disobey him. So when I love Allah, this is what will give me taqwa. Because I don't care about the entire world. I don't want the world. I have Allah. You want me to go after money and dunya and shahawat when I have God? Subhanallah. And this is exactly what the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam also does to you. Let me give you a story. That during the time of Uthman, Abu Dharr al-Ghafari, he was banished by Uthman to Al-Rabada. And he lived a very poor lifestyle. Very, very poor lifestyle. He could barely eat. He barely survived. So Uthman sent 2 slaves to Abu Dharr one day, and he told them to go and give 200 either dirhams or dinars as a gift to Abu Dharr. So they came to him and they told him, here's 200 dirhams from the Khalifa, from Uthman. So Abu Dharr right away, he said, is this money like, the stimulus that the government, he's giving this to everyone? They said, no, this is specifically for you. He said, then I don't want it. I don't want, if it's anything specifically for me, I don't want it. If he's giving it to everyone, I will take it. But just for me, I don't want it because this is what? He's trying to bribe me. Remember? He wants to bribe me with this money. He said, I don't want it. So they told him, but if you take this money, Uthman told us that he will release us, he will free us. We will be free individuals. Abu Dharr told them, you will be free individuals, but then I will become a slave to Uthman. So you want yourselves to be free at the cost of my freedom? I will become a slave of Uthman. No way. But then they looked at his house and it was a terrible house. Terrible house. Like it's not even a house. So they told him, but look at yourself, your family, you're so poor. Take this money, you can benefit. Abu Dharr told them, no, do not look at this. I am ghani, asbahtu ghaniyan. I'm a rich individual. I'm wealthy. They told him, you're wealthy. Look at this. Where's your wealth? He told them, أصبحت غنيا بولاية أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب. I am wealthy and rich because I have something that none of you have. I have the love of Imam Ali, the wilayah of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And I would not sell it for the entire world. That's why I'm rich. I have something that cannot be even, cannot be valued at any price. And I would not trade it for the entire world. That's why I'm rich. I'm wealthy. I have the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. That's why he would never take any money as a bribe from anyone, from either Uthman or anyone else. Because he was in love with Imam Ali alayhi salam. When you're in love with Imam Ali, when you're in love with Ahlul Bayt, when you're in love with Allah, you don't want the dunya anymore. The dunya cannot tempt you anymore. Like Imam Ali used to tell the dunya, غري غيري, you don't tempt me. You don't threaten me. You don't tempt me. If you don't want the dunya to tempt you, then make your relationship stronger with Allah and stronger with Ahlul Bayt. But the question is, how can I start loving Allah? How? Now, there's many points. I'll just mention one in the limited time that I have. One point to think about to increase your love for God, brothers and sisters. Just remember the generosity of God. How generous God is with me, and how negligent I am with Him, and how much I disobey Him. The more He gives me, the more I disobey Him, the more I am negligent with Him. This in itself will make you love God. Allah does not have to shower me with His blessings, right? Out of everyone in the world today, He gave me family, He gave me health, He gave me wealth. Alhamdulillah, we live in this country, comfortable. There's people that are starving so many places in the world. Allah Azza wa Jal has showered me with His blessings. What have I done to gain that, brothers and sisters? What? Have I done something? Nothing. It's mere mercy of Allah, just generosity. All I do is I disrespect Him, I disobey Him, I sin, I neglect Him, and all He does is He increases His ni'am. Al-Imam Zainul Abidin says this in Dua Abi Hamza Thamali. He says, تَتَحَبَّبُ إِلَيْنَا بِالنِّعَمْ فَنُعَارِضُكَ بِالذُّنُوبِ. He says, all you do is you send your generosity. You show us your love by sending your generosity. How do I thank Allah? By disobeying Him, by disrespecting Him and sinning. He says, خَيْرُكَ إِلَيْنَا نَازِلٌ وَشَرُّنَا إِلَيْكَ صَاعِدٌ. Your good is constantly coming down and our evil is constantly going up to Allah. Allahu Akbar. It's a one-sided relationship. It's only God loving us. We don't love Him back because all we give Him back is sins and disobedience. And then Al-Imam alayhi salam Zayn al-Abidin says, فَلَمْ يَمْنَعْكَ ذَلِكَ مِنْ أَن تَحُوطَنَا بِنِعَمِكَ. He says, despite that, how rude I am with you, you did not cut, you did not stop all those ni'am, all those benefactions. You never said it's enough. I'm going to deprive you and prevent you. No, Allah continues to shower us. Sometimes you see, brothers and sisters, there are some people who work for a company. They just, one tweet they write, one tweet, which wasn't very wise, which was, sometimes it shows their arrogance or it shows that they're not a very good person. One tweet and they get fired from their job. I remember there's many examples of people, who were, had jobs or celebrities. They lost sponsors. They lost so many, deals because of one tweet that they did that was a little disrespectful, that there was arrogance in it or whatnot. And that's it. They took all the ni'am from them. This is how we human beings are, brothers and sisters. If someone disrespects me once, that's it. I will never be generous with them. Allah, we disrespect Him and we disobey Him for 80 years and He does not cut His ni'am from us. This is the generosity of Allah. And that's why in dua, Arafah Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam says this. He tells Allah, let me introduce myself and let me introduce Allah. You know what he says? He says, as for you, Ya Allah, أنت الذي أعطيت, أنت الذي مننت, أنت الذي هديت, أنت الذي أنعمت, أنت الذي رزقت, أنت الذي تفضلت, أنت الذي غفرت, أنت الذي سترت. You, Ya Allah, you're the one that gave me so much ni'am. You guided me, you gave me rizq, you concealed, you forgave, all this good. This is Allah. But then me on the other end, أنا الذي أسأت, أنا الذي عصيت, أنا الذي تكبرت, أنا الذي غفلت, أنا الذي نسيت, أنا الذي عصيت. As for me, I am the one that disobeyed you. I am the one that disrespected you. I am the one that forgot, that neglected you. So it's all from Allah Azza wa Jal, good and evil from me. Such that Al-Imam Al-Mahdi says in Dua Al-Iftitah, فَلَمْ أَرَ مَوْلًا كَرِيمًا أَصْبَرَ عَلَىٰ عَبْدٍ لَئِيمٍ مِنْكَ عَلَيَّ يَا رَبْ. He says, Ya Allah, I have never seen such a generous master that has such a rude slave, that takes advantage of his master like you and I. How patient is Allah Azza wa Jal with us? This in itself should make me love Allah Azza wa Jal. I should realize that Allah is so generous with me and Allah is worthy of being worshipped, and I should never disrespect Allah or disobey Him just because of how generous He is with me. This is one factor that can help you in achieving love, in reaching that state of love and ultimately taqwa from this dunya. هذا وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم